younger cousin, who still lives in Birmingham, Alabama. The house where I was born is still in Birmingham, Alabama, and been renovated by one of my younger relatives. It's a nice house. Then why did my mom and daddy leave there? My father was working in a steel mill. They left, listen carefully now, for 3 basic reasons. To be able to fight back if they were attacked by the Ku Klux Klan, read something about Ku Klux Klan, or ask some of your older relatives, they might be able to tell you something. And some of the Ku Klux Klan still exist in places like Mississippi and Indiana and places. They left to be able to vote. And when they left, their desire was to be able to vote so that they could vote for the right people to give freedom. As the Declaration of Independence said, we hold these truths to be self-evident. First they said all men. Then later they had to include all black men. Then women later. But now with Dr. King and Dr. Martin Luther King, who was around before you were born, but that's your relative. All human beings have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, when my family came to Chicago in 1919, they moved to the south side of Chicago. They wanted better education, what they thought was better education. They wanted to be able to vote and those other things. And so, all of my years, except for living occasionally in places like Milwaukee or Gary and being in the Army, have been spent on the south side of Chicago. I went to kindergarten at Fuller School. I think that building is still there. Forestville, which has been torn down. Willard, Edmund Burke, which is still there at 54th and King Drive. Then to Inglewood High School. Things were so tough there in terms of the way we Negroes were treated. I transferred to Wendell Phillips, where I met, any of you ever hear a musician called Nat King Cole? Huh? I hope so. If you don't, go listen to his music. He's a great musician. Nat King Cole. Any of you hear of a man by the name of John H. Johnson, publisher of The Jet and Ebony magazine, who became a multimillionaire? We were all, I didn't become anything. We were all in high school together, among many, many others. Many of you ever hear of how many of you here think the Harlem Globetrotters are from Harlem, New York? They're from the south side of Chicago, Wendell Phillips High School, Wabash YMCA, and other places. They were from Wendell Phillips, but they were named Harlem because the man that owned them thought he could make more money, Abe Saperstein. Now, I would say this, and I'm going to stop shortly because I could go on and on. I grew up on the south side, where we were segregated in this neighborhood even. We couldn't live unless we were servants or something. Hyde Park, Kenwood, same thing. But we were determined to bring about change. We were determined that my mother and father and people like them, which there were many, were determined that our lives were going to be better than their lives. I remember doing what you may, if you talk, something called the Great Depression, where jobs had gone away and everything. They had jobs at the steel mill, and I asked my father how I get to the steel mill so I could get a job. He said, oh, no, you're not going out there. I didn't bring you here to do what I was doing. You're going to do better. You're going to school. So my brother, who was a great basketball player, but couldn't play, he could play at Tilden Tech as the black captain of his team, but he couldn't play at the University of Illinois, but he had a scholarship. He went on to become a lawyer. I was a pretty good basketball player, didn't have to be 6'7" in those days. I went to Xavier for a little while, then Xavier in New Orleans. Came back, went to the Army and came back, then went back to college. That's what my mama and daddy wanted me to do, finish. Not just make money, but finish college. And in our neighborhood, particularly after breaking through what was known as restrictive covenants, we controlled our neighborhood because we went to vote. And if the person we voted for didn't carry out good things for us, he or she was not going to get elected again. We put them in, we could take them out. And so when I returned and went back, finished school, Roosevelt University, University of Chicago, I was a social worker first. Then I became a teacher. And I was so impressed by the young people like you that were students of mine that I said, this is what I'm going to spend the rest of my working life doing, is being a teacher or a community person trying to encourage young people to realize that there is a future that they can make. Have any of you seen the picture from Barack, from DuSable to Obama? You've seen it? Tell us about it. Come on, tell us about it. You don't want to talk? Well, it tells a story, young people, about from the first non-native to settle on the banks of the Chicago, what we now call the Chicago River, was a Haitian who was not a slave. His father was French, his mother was Haitian. And he became a fur trader, and he came to the banks of what we now call the Chicago River, I think in the late 1780s and 90s, and began the settlement of what we now call Chicago. On through that period of time, African Americans have been in Chicago to make good, to make a living, to go to school. When they say Barack from DuSable to Obama, what they're trying to help you and everyone think is that Barack is the beneficiary of the struggles of other people in Chicago. First, to build on. His wife, born and reared in Chicago. Her mother, born and reared in Chicago. Her father, graduate of DuSable High School. He came to Chicago because there were greater opportunities to do what he did. And it was when he started organizing, he started with some ministers. Now I'm talking about not what I think, because one of the first persons he wanted to know when he came to Chicago was a guy by the name of TimuelBlack. introduced him to people like Father Pfleger and Reverend Jeremiah Wright and other ministers. And then they encouraged young people when he decided to go to run for politics, like you, to help organize the community. That eventually helped him become a successful United States state senator, then a United States senator, and then to make him feel that he could win if he ran for the president of the United States. I'm going to stop because I'm talking too much. But the thought I want to plant in your minds, since I used to be your age, might seem impossible, but I did. And that is looking back at my ancestors, my grandparents and great-grandparents, and looking at what happened to me and my brother and my sister. My brother was a prominent lawyer. I went on to not be prominent, but at least go to school. That nothing is impossible. If you want to do, you plan. You plan. What do you want to be doing this time next year? Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? Are you going to college? If you're going, which one do you think will do what you want it to be? You want to be an engineer?